This program is rated GE. Content carried in here is suitable for general family viewing.
Down to the issues of decision making and power relation. Depending on where you look at it, the national government or the county government or the three arms of government, it all boils down to how the three arms of government relate, or the two tiers of government relate, in relation to the structures, tradition and cultures that have been put in place. This is Law Matters, a show that is educative, informative, and offers legal solutions to the issues we face on a day-to-day life, which includes the issue of governance and the issue of rule of law. My name is Irene Mwangi. You're watching Law Matters live at Kenyatta University School of Parklands, and we are here to bring you a show that will be able to educate you concerning the issue of governance and how we relate, not only in this regime of President William Ruto, but even in past regimes. Remember, you can interact with us on our social media platforms at KUTV Kenya on Facebook, at KUTV_Kenya on Twitter, and at KUTV Kenya on YouTube. Be sure to send some of your questions as well as opinions concerning this particular show. But before I start the show, let me allow my guest to introduce himself.
Okay. Thank you so much, Irene, for the invite. My name is Silas Biowiti. I am a legal and digital expert at Lawyers Hub. I also just previously served as a communication strategist in the Martha Career Secretariat. And yes, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to have you here on set. And given that you've mentioned that you have worked as a communication strategist in Martha Career Secretariat, a leader who wanted to be a leader of this nation, but it's all about democracy and the rule of law. We're talking about the issue of governance. You have related as a communication strategist on that. What is the nexus between governance and the rule of law?
I'd say how they come together. You cannot separate the two entities, because for you to govern a country, you must have a set of structure that is there, and that is for us, Kenya. The constitution was there and it was promulgated in 2010. So for you to govern well and successfully, you must have a set of structure and follow it to the latter. And that's where, for us as Kenyans, we made this beautiful baby and we called it the Constitution 2010. And we decided to serve it and let our leaders also use it to govern the whole country altogether. And I'd say it's been a challenge, but altogether you cannot separate the two, because one needs the other for it to function. And that's how I've correlated all to two. It's like a structure. The rule of law offers a structure for governance, and we all follow it all together.
All right.
Yeah.
But when you want to demystify what is governance, if you ask the Mama Mboga down at the community, for him governance is development, because it is implementation of laws to ensure that his or her life, I beg your pardon, is meant to a comfortable environment. But if you go to the elite, good governance is all about principles and all of that.
Yes.
So how do we demystify governance to fit the narrative of these two diverse?
Everyone fits the shoe the way they want to wear it altogether. It will mean something different for the middle class, for the upper class, and also for the Mamboga that you're talking about. So in general, I'd say governance is a system for how we see our leaders implementing all all their wishes, all their the national and public interest all together. So I'd say when the leaders serve us and deliver their national and public interests of the country, and they put it for us as citizens, and serve their term very well, I feel that is governance altogether. But you fit your shoe the way you can wear it, so it serves differently. For Mama Mboga, yes, as you were saying, it's very different, because yeye anataka kuona chakula, that is, or bei ya kitu imepunguka, yeah, or something, or to see roads, yeah, fair roads, and just nice policies, yeah. So it's different for different levels, and that's why I said in general, I'd say governance is just the systems that our leaders have put for them to actually implement their issues all together and their manifesto, and we are seeing it on the table. That's what I'd call governance.
All right, so it then begs the question that what then are the principles of good governance to sort of put a scorecard into whether we are having good governance here in the country. So of course there are issues that have been stipulated in the Constitution, but from where you sit, what are the key pointers in terms of the principle of good governance that leaders can stand on podiums to say that actually we have governed this country by the rule of law and in accordance to what the Constitution provides?
I'd say first of all, the way we started, Article 3 of our Constitution states that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and for leaders and for governance to actually rule, they must actually respect the supreme law of the land. I'd say so far, altogether, the principles of national governance would give it as integrity. You'd talk about yes, I mentioned integrity. We have implementing your issues all together.
So so do you talk about patriotism of sorts?
Yes.
Or how does now that come in terms of integrity, patriotism? Do we look at it in terms of the issue that in terms of accountability of sorts?
Yes.
Or how now do we narrow it between the nexus of integrity and the issues of accountability?
Governance altogether, as a layman, I'd put it as how would I want to see my leader on that seat? There are principles that you've mentioned: patriotism, integrity, accountability, transparency. You'd also give it as just the little nitty-gritties that would make me as a citizen want to vote for you again. The way you utilize our public resources, those are the things I'd actually see as the fruits of good governance. Yeah, so altogether, those are the things I look if I want to see a good system in place. Yes.
All right. So since 2013, we've seen the national and the county government, and this is courtesy of the 2010 Constitution. So it's safe to say that it is now 9 years into devolution. Did the 2010 Constitution, in terms of creating 2 tiers of government, quite streamline devolution? Because we have seen the 47 counties, but when you look into the good governance and the implementation of the Devolution Act in the 47 counties, there are some counties that are lagging behind. When you look at Busia County, for instance, having had 10 years of devolution, it is one of the counties that is lagging behind in terms of good governance. So the 2010 Constitution, in terms of splitting the national government and the county government, has it streamlined good governance in the country?
It's unfortunate that as Kenyans, we always have to have 2 or 3 conmen in our land here together. I'd say since 2010, devolution has been one of the greatest achievements for the 2010 constitution, because this was something that was never done before. Uhuru Kenyatta came on the table and actually started implementing it. And I'd see health reforms being done in the counties altogether. I'd see systems and policies being devolved in the counties altogether. Yes, there are stems of corruption and ghost workers like the other day, we could see the other day. But I'd say we have really improved as a country. And other countries in Africa would really want to benchmark what is this happening in Kenya, because the policies that are being made in these counties altogether. Yes, you spoke about Busia, but then why are you not looking at a county government like Nyandarua, where the previous governor, yes, he also had his own misdemeanors here and there, but he made a financial system that other county governments actually wanted to come and oversee.
Oh, it was Laikipia.
It was Nyandarua.
Not Laikipia?
Not Laikipia. Nyandarua, Kimemia. Yeah, he made a financial system where every county government, the governors came together, wanted to look how is this financial system working, you know? So at the end of the day, you find counties learning from each other, you know? And I'm actually surprised that, yes, it's been 10 years, these are 2 terms, but all along when we see the ride through the devolved system, when I ask myself how far are we, I'd give us a 45%. And this is not just looking at the good things altogether, also looking at the bad things. Because yes, in a country like this where corruption has been our cup of tea every single day, but you see county governments actually coming and making a few improvements in the few municipalities here and there. I'd say we are heading on in the right direction in terms of devolution. And if we have good governors and the senators actually put them accountable, the MCAs actually put them accountable, I feel we're heading in the right direction.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, away from the 2 tiers of government, now the national government and the county government, when you look into the 3 arms of government, that is the judiciary, executive, and the legislature, in terms of implementing the 2010 constitution, if we take it forward, how well have these 3 arms of government been able to understand the rule of law and also the separation of powers between the 3 independent, arms of government?
It's actually very, very, I'd use the word disgusting, because the executive that was there before never really regarded the judiciary as an arm of government. Yes, he might have, and this I'm mentioning our former president, President Uhuru Kenyatta. The 3 arms of government are there to actually govern the whole country, and they're actually our root as Kenya, the judiciary, the legislature, which is there to actually enact and oversight the whole government together. The judiciary is actually there to also just interpret this constitution and actually make sure everything is on the right direction. But when we find that the executive is actually on one hand in a better place and actually decreasing the leg of one arm of government, and I'd say for the previous regime, asking myself altogether, I feel the arms of government did not really actualize what we really meant in the constitution as the 3 arms of government, and them being at one state and one level and actually being arms to actually foster this country in the right direction.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Lawyer Silas, for that particular perspective. But we'll be taking our first break on that particular note on the issue of separation of powers. Once we get back, we'll be looking into the different regimes, from the regime of, the late President Daniel Arap Moi to President Kenyatta and the President William Ruto in the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, looking into how the three arms of government will work in accordance to the rule of law and good governance. See you after this short break.
Toka ile mtenye Maslay Queen utembea na visi ndio onekao tamada vijana.
Kajiona mdeadly kushinda waganga wote wa Kitui. Hakujua hii kitu hii ni tricky.
Alafu imekuwa chai. Ite kitu kidogo just to get in between my thighs at I love you.
It is a sunny Sunday afternoon when we make our way to Sunken Park along Aga Khan Walk at the heart of the Nairobi Central Business District. It is here we meet hundreds of skating enthusiasts, new entrants, parents and guardians who have gathered for an eventful afternoon. From Monday to Saturday, the Sunken Park serves as a parking lot. It is only open to skaters for just one day in a week. They fall and rise until they get it right. Samson Soni is a skating coach. He has been training the children at the park.
Driving and riding without incidences on the road is such an amazing experience. But do you know while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause. Speeding, lane indiscipline, drunk driving, distracted driving, failure to wear a helmet, and failure to use available pedestrian ways have been flagged by NTSA as the fatal 6 behaviors likely to lead to a fatal crash and serious injuries. As part of the Usalama Barabarani campaign, we request all road users to prevent these fatal 6 behaviors for their own safety and that of others. When driving, ensure your speed is within the stipulated limits. The road ahead is clear before overtaking. Stick to your lane. Keep left unless carefully overtaking. You're well rested if driving on long distances, and you never drink and drive. Usalama Barabarani starts with you. Fika Salama. This message is brought to you by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the European Union.
Matters. Tonight we're talking about good governance in relations to our day-to-day lives and the 3 arms of government, as well as the 2 tiers of the national government and the county government. With me on set is Silas Awiti, who is a lawyer, giving us a perspective concerning that particular issue. But before we went on a break, we were talking about separation of power between the 3 arms of government and looking at how the 3 arms of government have been able to implement the rule of law to ensure good governance, as well as to ensure that they are not conflicting in their operations in terms of the rule of law. So, Lawyer Witi, when we're back on that particular issue of separation of power, and when you're looking into the executive, that is to say, different regimes of President Uhuru Kenyatta, of the late President Daniel Arap Moi, and the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, have you seen them, disregard the rule of law in terms of, having excesses, what we will say excesses, in terms of going away from what they are bound with in terms of accountability and power relationship?
Yes, we have seen the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, and it's in the public eye that he was Moi's son indirectly altogether, because Moi has not once but twice actually nominated him as the next president at that in his regime altogether. Moi's regime, even when we could read a normal primary school student will actually know that Moi was a dictator altogether. But now coming with our new constitution, the 2010 constitution, and giving it to Uhuru Kenyatta to actually implement it and help us learn, because civic education was not really given well to the citizens. So we actually gave this right to the president to actually help us learn this constitution, and he completely disregarded it. The CAS positions that he hired, the judiciary actually said it was unconstitutional, disregarded it altogether. The 6 judges who were just employed by President Ruto, it was in his desk, and the problem came when these judges are still serving in the same high court that he's saying that their characters are questionable. So if their characters are questionable, then they should be ruled out of the whole high court altogether, because I cannot stand in a case where this judge is there and is giving me his ruling, and the president has mentioned something questionable about him or her. So I'd find the president from Moi. I'd also talk about Uhuru, because that's the regime I've really been watching the entire time. I'd say his watch on the 2020 constitution, I'd give him a 25%, because yes, he's tried in the devolution area, but in terms of just listening to the judiciary, and that's what made Chief Justice Maraga Emeritus very happy, because he even came to the 6 judges. He was weakened altogether, and that's why we are saying the 3 arms of government altogether should work hand in hand to actually make sure the rule of law of the land is upheld, and us as citizens, we should see that they're working together. And you could even see Maraga complaining the other day when he was still in office, how he was not even being recognized altogether.
The president was not
receiving his calls and everything. So we could see actually the executive taking a higher route and showing themselves as bullies altogether, and the legislature was there not doing anything. And this is what is even affecting us in this current regime, because I find that there is this topic of majority and minority rule. If you are being elected as a member of parliament, your work is to oversight the executive. And if you stay there and see that the judiciary is being weakened, you as the legislature is being weakened, us as the citizens, sisi ndo tunaumia.
But before we even get into, the other 2 arms of government, if President Uhuru Kenyatta, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his regime, totally disregarded the law, that means that he failed in terms of the issues of governance. The Attorney General, in this particular case, is supposed to, give guidance to the President in terms of what should be done in terms of implementing the law. Does it now mean that, the AG failed in his part in terms of convincing, the head of state on the procedures to follow? Or is it to say that Uhuru somewhat acted as a person who was above the rule of law?
There are even talks by even members of the Kenya Kwanza team that even this AG should be disbarred from the law society altogether, because there are things that are very open even to us as the public, that he should be given that chance to actually advise the president. Was he a puppet in his seat, or was he there to actually advise the president on legal matters? So if we see the president actually ignoring or giving the elbow to all these policies that are being put on his table, and their constitutional policies, so I'd actually call the former IG a puppet, because we've not seen him actually do his work. I am waiting to see the next Attorney General, and if his stature will be to uphold this constitution. But as for our former Attorney General, I'd actually call him a puppet.
When we look into the legislature, which is now the other arm of government, what has been their conduct in terms of, implementing the rule of law? We have had them being castigated, being told that, they're being bullied by the executive. From where you sit, looking into the 12th Parliament, 11th, 10th, and 9th, how has been their conduct in terms of, implementing the rule of law?
The challenge comes when the executive also has the majority rule in the parliament. And if your word, the president's word, is the final say in the parliament, that is a completely weak legislature altogether. So, yes, we've seen the president actually having the majority party. Jubilee was actually a majority party in the former parliament, and all the bills that were coming in and being approved, all the ones that really needed to be approved were not being approved. So I'd tell myself that we have missed the complete reason why the members of parliament are there sitting in that parliament to enact these legislations and to oversight the whole arms of government. Their works have been totally 0%, and I'd see them even still bargaining about their remunerations, their salaries altogether, but they're missing the point. Your work, you've been elected there to actually serve me as a citizen. Me as a citizen first. Then next you can serve your leader or your political leader altogether. But
how do we entangle the issue of political parties, that is in terms of numbers, and Parliament as a house? Because if you want to talk about President Kenyatta's regime, you'll say when we had the handshake, it was Jubilee and ODM, so they had the majority, they had their way, they could increase the debt ceiling according to their wish and the wish of the executive. In this particular case, we are seeing Kenya Kwanza, the same scenario. Kenya Kwanza right now, if we disregard the political agreement by the registrar of political parties and look into the alignments that we have had, Kenya Kwanza will have more numbers, and of course they will have their way in terms of doing what President William Ruto, beg your pardon, will want to push before the House. So how do we entangle the issue of numbers and the Parliament working independently as a House?
Is it the issue of numbers or the issue of the Constitution? The law, as it says right now, Kenya Kwanza should be the minority.
Yeah, but you see, we have realignment.
Yes, we are having realignments, yes. In terms of numbers, on paper, and that's what we should look at right now, and I'm sure the Speaker, Honorable Wetangula, is really looking at right now. On paper, the majority rule, Azimio has actually taken it all together.
On paper.
On paper. But in practice, we can see people being seduced here and there. People being seeing that they're going to be in the political cold for some time and actually looking for some other routes. And the way Martha Karua was talking the other day that you are leaving a party and you're not even divorcing it altogether. You are still married, but going
For
to
divorce.
get married again into another. It's like a bigamy. Yes.
You see, when it comes to Parliament,
Mhm.
it's all about numbers.
Yeah.
In the passage of different bills, it is always 2/3
Mhm.
or a simple majority, depending
Yeah.
whether it's a motion.
Mhm.
So it all boils down to numbers.
Mhm.
And even if we're looking into the paper realignment, of course, Azimio has more numbers, but
Does
the voting is in terms of numbers, in terms of realignment. So at the end of the day, we might have President William Ruto having his hand in Parliament, which might affect the issue of good
the
governance.
Political Amendments Act that they actually amended, even just before the elections happened, it binded them. If you're in a coalition party, that is the party that put you into office.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say even all those members that have been elected under Azimio or under Kenya Kwanza, I don't know the contract that they had under Kenya Kwanza, but they have been given up to November 29th, I think. That's when you are able to move to any other political party. But as of right now, they are bounded by the Azimio contract. And yes, you can say it's a game of numbers. I get your point. But as of right now, what does the law say?
It's all the issue of which side has the majority or minority.
Uh-huh.
My issue is voting.
Uh-huh.
Say UDM leader, UDM senator Mohammed Ali Roba
Yeah.
was in Azimio, but has now moved to Kenya Kwanza.
Uh-huh.
If there is a bill that has been sponsored by Kenya Kwanza, he will vote for Kenya Kwanza. It is the vote.
It is
so
the
it
vote
boils
that
down to the
counts.
numbers. So it means the government will have its way, regardless of whether they were on this side or this other side. When it comes to voting, it boils down to which side he has aligned at that particular moment.
It is so sad that as a country we can see ourselves heading into that direction. And yes, as I was saying, on paper, yes, we can claim that Azimio has the majority. But in practice, yes, the country is really headed into a very, very wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is where we will be going as bills and the President, William Ruto, trying to actually have all the places all together in Parliament, I don't think that this is the oversight government that I really wanted to be in as a citizen of Kenya. I'd say that you have been elected on that seat to serve the people of Kenya altogether. And yes, you can be there with your own political ambitions altogether, but why are you there? Is to serve the citizen that elected you. And if you're there and the rule of the president or the bill that will favor you as a political party is your number one priority, we are really heading in the wrong direction as a country. And I'd give this advice to the members of parliament who actually, we can see them jumping to the other scale altogether. When the policies and the bills come to parliament, please look at who elected you and does it favor this citizen, Uyo Wako Uyo, if he or she is in Laikipia? Will this favor that Mama Mboga, that Mora or that Manjiku who voted for you? So if it is on the left side, then you are not the leader that we expected to be in this parliament.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, away from the legislature, you're looking at the judiciary, which is seen as an arbitrator when it comes to the excesses of, say, the executive and as well as the legislature. Their conduct in terms of implementing the rule of law, because if you look into the High Court, it's supposed to be the court that really protects the constitution as well as interpret it to avoid the issue of misinterpreting the law and not being guided by the law. From where you sit, the judiciary in the conduct of President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, how have they been able to implement the good governance in terms of decision making?
And looking at our judiciary, And this is, as a matter of fact, this is something that every African can see, that our judiciary made the first time when a presidential election has been suspended altogether is by our judiciary. And the laws that have been made, the precedents that are there in our judicial systems are actually top-notch, because these are people who have actually known whatever, they have earned their rights to be on that table. And I'd say that altogether, Chief Justice David Maraga's regime, they served right. Yes, they were weakened altogether, but we could actually see them trying to actually save the rule of law and the constitution altogether. And this we could actually see when they abolished even the BBI, meaning that they knew that this is something that is not with the constitution. So looking at the judiciary, I'd say we were in the right direction. As of right now, yes, we can see that they're being given arms altogether. There's a hug that has been given by the president as of the moment. We don't know if they will be favoring the executive altogether. But from the past regimes, the judiciary has been a backbone for all the other judicial systems in all the African countries, because this is where they look for precedents. And I'd say even with the nullification of the presidential election 2017, every country is actually surprised, every country in Africa surprised that we actually have a strong judicial system. As of right now, I'd want to beg the judicial system that actually, yes, you might be funded here and there to actually make your system work well, but make that space, it's called a respectable space, so that all the arms of government can be able to implement their policies up to the right direction and foster it for the benefit of the citizen. So for the judiciary, I'd say, yes, it was headed in the right direction for now. It's a matter of time. We're waiting to see this Chief Justice Martha Kome's regime. Where is it going to go? Is it going to really favor this judiciary? Is it going to stand on its feet and stand on the constitution altogether? Yes, we're waiting.
All right. Do you think there are cases of what we'll call judicial activism? Because they have been pointed out that there are some cases that, you know, they have ruled on, and it was more, some have said it was more of activism than the upholding of the rule of law. And to the extent that in terms of judicial ruling, when it gets to the Supreme Court, it is done and dusted. There is no other avenue. So have you read judicial activism in terms of their conduct?
Yes, there are some cases that I have seen judges actually using their own ideology to actually rule on matters, and the law actually gives them some space to actually exercise their judicial activism altogether. But in retrospect, for the whole country, I cannot say that those cases are so, we can number a few cases here and there that have gone to that level. As far as I am concerned, the Constitution has been upheld in the judiciary. Yes, it was in the public eye as of the nullification of the presidential results, and everybody waiting the judiciary to actually mention, and we're actually waiting to see the judgment altogether. From the words of the Chief Justice, yes, there were some words that sounded biased here and there. We actually even felt that she was actually exercising some other thing altogether, when with words like hot air and what. But altogether, they're just countable cases where the judiciary has actually used its judicial activism, and it is there to favor that child, or it's from the best interest of that citizen and for the public as a whole.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, we'll be taking a short break, but once we return, we'll be looking at the challenges in terms of the conduct of these three arms of government, where we'll be looking into seeing whether there are really separation of powers in the three arms of government, and how the two tiers of government have been able to implement decisions so as not to ensure that the common mwananchi is not affected and there is good governance. See you in a minute.
Driving and riding without incidences on the road is such an amazing experience. But do you know, while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause. Speeding, lane indiscipline, drunk driving, distracted driving, failure to wear a helmet, and failure to use available pedestrian ways have been flagged by NTSA as the fatal 6 behaviors likely to lead to a fatal crash and serious injuries. As part of the Usalama Barabarani campaign, we request all road users to prevent these fatal 6 behaviors for their own safety and that of others. When driving, ensure your speed is within the stipulated limits, the road ahead is clear before overtaking, stick to your lane, keep left unless carefully overtaking, you're well rested if driving on long distances, and you never drink and drive. Usalama Barabarani starts with you. Fika Salama. This message is brought to you by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the European Union.
We bring you women who have done a tremendous job in the tech space.
Everybody was going for business, and the teachers would tell you, you know what, as a woman, try business or try agriculture. If you're a woman, follow your passion. Let passion be the drive for whatever it is that you're going to do. And remember, out here, people are here to support you.
Atoka ile mtenye maslay queen utembea na visi ndio onekao tamada vijana.
Akajiona mdeadly kushinda waganga wote wa Kitui, hakujua hii kitu hii ni tricky.
Alafu imekuwa chai. Ite kitu kidogo just to get in between my thighs that I love you.
Welcome back. This is Law Matters. Tonight we're focusing on the issue of good governance and how it has affected the three arms of government as well as the two-tier of government in terms of implementation. With me is lawyer Silas Owiti, who is giving me a perspective concerning that. And in this third segment, we'll be looking into the challenges in terms of implementation of the decision made not only in the Constitution but also by the three arms of government. Thank you, Mr. Owiti, for giving us more of your time. Now, when we're looking into the three arms of government, what has been the challenges in terms of implementation? We focus on the executive. What has hindered, say, President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime for implementing the Constitution, which was given to them first after the 2013 general elections?
I don't know if you leave the general challenges aside, like the COVID-19, the Ukraine fight, and whatever.
It's a fast stretch. Yeah, it's a fast stretch.
Apart from all those, I'd say the handshake was also a challenge for the executive altogether, because you see, this executive is kept there and is to be checked. So when we find that the executive is there and they don't have like other arms of government to advise its role, they were not heading in that direction that we all wanted, because we find that the prices of things were going up. The roads, at the end of the day, that's when they were really struggling to actually build it all together. The relationship between the deputy president and the president being on that,
which was a frosty one.
All together. And you'd find maybe the deputy president started campaigning so early. So President Uhuru was there struggling to actually make sure he leaves a legacy. And I felt as if they could have worked together. And we see this executive as one piece, because at some point we even saw them bringing cabinet secretaries to their sides, and some were being fired, some were being hired. So I'd say there were disagreements here and there in the executive. For them, they were given quite a tough time, you can say, because this is not a time even myself I'd have wanted to be the president, because when you're facing a crisis like the fight between Russia and Ukraine and COVID-19 immediately, I'd say yes, the executive has tried to actually implement some of its policies with the timing that they had, but the challenges, they tried putting them as so general. I know they had their in-house battles here and there, and some of them we could see them in the public eye, but they obviously had their in-house battles, but overall, I'd say that they have tried with all the challenges they were not just national challenges, but global challenges altogether.
All right. Now, when you look into the county government, which now trickles down to the citizens in terms of, the 47 counties, what has hindered them in terms of ensuring there's good governance? Because it is not even. You can say the 47 counties are at par. Some are really way behind. Others are way too ahead. What has been, something that has been the stumbling block?
And yes, corruption has been the number one case. You'd find these governors. I've been in the courts, and you find your governor is the one. The next case is this governor. The next one is this other governor. I felt as if they didn't know how to handle a budget, or as if this budget was there to favor their pockets. Corruption has been a very big issue in terms of the county governments, because this is their homeland. You find that the Migori governor, this is where he has his own family. So you find he's having cars with the son, he's having the kitchen cabinet with the daughter, and perhaps the wife is having something else. So corruption has been number one. Two, you've even seen the issues of the ghost workers. Why are they there? You'd find that these are people who have been employed, but they're not working. They're just feeding a salary. And we are claiming that the national budget is not enough, but the one that is there, we're not implementing it fully. So I find that most of the governors and the senators, the leadership was not well put in place, and the oversight, there were a lot of politics altogether with the MCAs and everything. So altogether, I find that if they would just decrease politics in the county government, and the MCAs, their works are there to actually just also oversight this governor, and the senator is there to give him advice on how this county should go, these counties and the devolution government would have been one of the most tremendous successes that we would have had as a country.
All right.
Yeah.
Without looking into the legislature, given that we have talked about it and it's all about the issues of politics and political parties getting into the way, Judiciary, in the Maraga's tenure, as well as the ones by Evans during the Kibaki's tenure, former Chief Justice Evans during Kibaki's tenure, what has been the challenges in terms of judiciary ensuring that they implement the constitution without fear or favor?
Yeah, we've also mentioned them. They've been weakened. There's no fund. There's no independent funds.
And now the issue of funding, which it's good you've brought it up, given that it is the legislature which is supposed to approve the budget, which goes to the the executive, then it comes back to the judiciary. Mm-hmm. Is there a way of solving this particular challenge? Because it seems like a huge challenge that now President William Ruto is dangling.
They never felt independent because you cannot have a system where you still have to rely on another system so much for you to deliver your duties. So the judiciary, number one, was weakened by funds. Number two, our corrupt system where the executive is seeing people looting and the actions that are being put in place at the end of the day just favors the wealthy and not the other mama mboga. So I'd say we, as even the citizens, have even failed ourselves altogether because we see the matters that are being even put in the judiciary altogether, they're not being addressed as well, and we are still watching that the executive is weakening this other arm, and this other arm is weakening this other arm, and we are still watching. Mm-hmm. I'd say altogether, I will not put a blame on the judiciary because there are other arms. There's the DPP, there's the DCI, all of them are to do their duties all together because the DCI is supposed to investigate, this part is supposed to prosecute. So there was no flow system. There's no flow system. And number one, that's what we've mentioned. If the funds are still in the executive, so who?
No.
Yeah, because now if I would make a looting and the first call I make to the one who's funding you,
it's a far stretch looking at it. Yeah. So even as we look into that, we therefore question the issue of, are there structure of non-compliance? If President Uhuru Kenyatta is not, former President Uhuru Kenyatta is not complying with the law, are there structures to ensure that he complies? If the legislature is not complying with the law, are there structures to ensure that? Have we seen, the structures which are envisaged in the law being put into action?
Yes. It is all that, as I started saying that we have a structure in our 2010 constitution, and I find us so ignorant with the fact that we can actually come together and make sure that this institution is actually looked at deeply. Yes, as you're saying that we can do something, but then in this political society where we've represented the leaders to actually represent the oversight, and they are the ones who are not looking at our matters clearly, then I still find a problem with it. Yes, there are structures. I think Article 59 of the Constitution states that when they come together, they can remove even a sitting president or deputy president. But are we even ready to go into that direction, really? If your president makes something bad, not
really. We have not come of age to...
We've not come of age, yes. Even as of right now, the 2/3 gender rule, I still feel like we are kindergarten in our constitution. So yes, there are structures, fully established structures to make sure that all of these things we're talking about can be implemented, but we're just ignorant of the fact that it actually exists, and we can work on it. And I still have hope that, yes, we've had it, we're still learning it, we're implementing it little by little, but at the end of the day, we have it. There are other nations that all have this kind of constitution, yes. So we have it, and we can look at it in the brighter side, but at the same time, let's still be upright and make sure that we are implementing this constitution the way it was written up to the letter.
All right. Thank you, Wakili Silas Awiti. Because of time, we'll leave it there. But of course, we've been able to touch into the issues of the three arms of government, as well as the national and the county government in terms of the implementation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invite. I'll be glad to be back any single time. And I'd just say the country is ours, and we should serve the national and the public interest. And I'm sure we still have hope. The constitution is there, the arms of government.
We'll be good to see.
Yeah.
All right. It is a political system, as they say it. We have structures, we have systems, we have traditions. But at the end of the day, the issue of accountability and power relations goes down to goodwill and how educated and informed our citizens are in terms of knowing what the Constitution says. Here at Law Matters, we do wish that this show was well informative in terms of the three arms of government, as well as the two tiers, the national government and the county government, in terms of implementing the rule of law. My name is Irene Mwangi. Many thanks for staying tuned during this whole program. Have a good night.